Great. Let's go. Okay, roll call first. I faked you all out. I'm just kidding. Okay, Robert?
Here.
Glenn?
Here.
Kelsey?
Here.
Meryl?
Here.
Jenny?
Present.
Sherry's here. Heidi is gone today, but she will be back. Y'all good? Diane? All right, we'll do the flag salute. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will open up the floor for an agenda consideration.
So moved.
Hearing moved in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, moving right along. We're gonna acknowledge the overnight field trip to for the girls' basketball team to Pendleton.
More, you skipped over a couple.
Did I?
Yeah.
What? Oh,
ASB report first.
it bounced, sorry.
Public comment.
Public comments?
And then.
Thank you. Sorry, it bounced down. I must have touched my mouse pad. Okay, ASB report, not to skip over you.
It's okay. It's okay.
Gonna
How
say.
are you all tonight? Good?
I'm good.
Sweet. It's a pretty simple one today, but we'll start off with the ASB itself. We just successfully finished off the last of our HOCO week activities, and it was a huge success. It was really good this year. And we kind of need a week to kind of just like reset and replan everything. And then our next big thing is our annual Veterans Day breakfast coming for November. But we're pretty chillax for now.
Yeah, so FBLA just hosted their first monthly meeting. They had a bunch of old shirts and they got a bunch of pictures with everybody in their shirt. They also today had their first Big Brother Big Sister meeting, and so that went pretty well. I was there.
The kids are really cute.
Kids are really cute. It's first graders this year, so it's really fun.
They're really sweet, yeah. And then Key Club is still running their eyeglasses donation as well as a warm clothing drive to donate for any people in need. So if any of you guys have any old eyeglasses that need to be used, prescription, anything like that, or any old clothing, there's boxes all over the high school for donations. They would love the support and help.
Yes, definitely. NHS has their first blood drive this year on October 31st. A little spooky.
The Halloween theme.
And almost all the appointment slots are filled with only 13 left. They're also continuing to host their weekly homework help labs, and there's some attendance.
Yeah. The robotic program has 2 teams in this year, which is good news. And they're both looking very promising, according to Miss Moran. They have their first tournament at Sandy High School at 9 o'clock, and then another one at the middle school on November 23rd. Anyone wants to come in sports.
Okay, so for Metcha's continuing to host their meetings and prepare for some of their upcoming events as well as getting further into the year.
Yearbook is continuing all their hard work and have photographers at almost all the sporting events. Right now it's all kind of a game of just collecting photos for this year's yearbook, and they're doing a great job at capturing all of our fall sporting events activities. And I know they're also working very hard to promote the senior spotlight and gather senior spotlight pictures. And so if any of you guys have any seniors,
Yes,
senior spotlights going on right now.
any sports photos, Bailey would love them.
Yes,
I know.
any pictures, anything.
NAHS Art Chapter is collaborating with Hubbard for city banners, Le Petit Bistro with coffee covers, and the primary school to paint bus line murals. So,
Yeah, and then finally, Awesome is working on activities for seasonal depression, speaking up and speaking out, and distracted driving. They're also connecting with Marion County Health, Salem Health, Injury Prevention, Safe, Oregon, to organize our activities. And it's Operation Student Safe on the Move. So a bunch of exciting stuff from them.
yeah.
And that's about it for the clouds for this month. Yeah, that's all. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have
so
a good
much.
night, yeah.
Thank you. Any questions?
Anything? Always looking for blood drive.
Yes,
Donators.
if anybody wants to donate, we'd love it.
My due duty.
Give one of us to sign the slips.
Thank you so much, and I will
Thank you.
advertise that more
Thank
for
you so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. UNME.
Mine'll be nice and short tonight too.
Okay, sounds good.
It's kind of like last week, this school year was rolling along. I looked at our communication today, I was like, whoa, it's week 7. It's still, it feels, it's hard to believe we're mid-October already. It's just, everything's going smooth and smooth. And, you know, we'd like to say thank you for our Learning Summit Day. It's been a good 2 years. I like that style and that format. And the contract was approved, ratified. In fact, we jumped on the gun on somebody else. 90%, 97% voted yes, so everybody's pretty happy, morale's high, it's good. Like I said, just kind of rolling along, years moving. That's all I have. Any questions for us? So,
Thank you so much for coming.
yeah, no
We
problem, yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, now to the overnight field trip acknowledgement. So we will acknowledge that overnight field trip. The OSBA annual convention is coming. It's in Portland and I believe it's November 7th. Am I right? 7th through the 9th. So if you're interested, please contact Diane.
Well, registration ends at 11:59 tonight.
So get on it.
I'm
Give her a verbal.
registered and Merle's going, I don't think we go on the same days, but
Do you have to register for all of it, or can you do à la carte? All of it, okay,
Well, I think you can just do
I can't,
one day, can't you?
no.
You have to do 2 days, or you don't have to do the
The
free
Friday
conference.
is kind of optional and that has its own price tag. And then Saturday and Sundays are,
I think the Thursday is the optional, and then Friday, Saturday is,
that's it.
yeah, yeah. Thursday is like a pre-conference, and
That's the
then,
day I'm doing.
yeah, then there's a Friday, Saturday, so.
Great. So touch base with Diane at the end of the meeting if you want to attend. Okay, consent agenda. You've had a chance to look, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as written.
I'll second. Consent.
Thank you. I was gonna ask. Any discussion? Okay, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 4, business budget and appropriations.
Yeah, we'll have an update next month in November for this. We're still finishing up the audit, it's not quite done yet. We're going, hopefully we'll have if you approve the contract tonight, we have new payroll numbers to go over.
Okay, thank you. Board action. The first one is OSBA policy adoption and deletion. Dan, did you wanna say anything on this?
No.
Okay, so we received it, we received answers to our questions. Was there any other comments before we look for an approval?
I appreciated the process. I thought it was great. I thought it moved quickly and questions were answered and. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the OSBA policy adoption deletion as stated for sections G, I, J, K, and L.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Oh, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, clarification, you made the motion and you seconded?
No,
No,
Jenny.
Jenny made the
Oh, you
motion.
did, it was,
Yes,
that was your
seconded.
voice. Thank you.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have to approve the ratified UNME contract for 2024-2026 through 2026.
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, thank the team that preceded me for laying out the great groundwork that got a lot of the work done. I inherited a process that was well underway, so I really appreciate Bill's work and the team, both teams' work. Appreciate the way they got me up to speed as well. It was very, very helpful. I felt like I walked in knowing what the remaining issues were. A huge shout out to UNME for being very collaborative in the process. You know, the process, you know, is sort of inherently designed for some conflict to occur. I mean, I don't think anybody, you're ever gonna avoid that, but as long as you kind of can be really honest about the issues, you know, that difference between honesty and then, you know, those personal kind of jabs that can happen that didn't happen. I think it was a really healthy process, and a huge shout out to my teammates that shouldered a lot of the organizational work around this. Huge shout out to them. And Heidi's not here, but Heidi was really an instrumental part representing the board. So I fully support you ratifying this contract.
And on that, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we ratify the UNME contract for 2024 and 2026. Through 2026.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Yeah, Robert. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Contract is approved. Okay, moving on.
All right, so we have some district operations reports. We are going to flip-flop A and B, so high school, Deanne is going to report first.
My favorite thing to do.
At least Stacy's willing to go after me, so the big show will be later. Truly, I really don't like doing this stuff. Dan asked me if I wanted to practice this morning, I said no.
Jenny and the spirit animals.
So, as you see, that's a picture of our staff. Every year we try to get a staff picture. Sarah Bailey aligns a couple students to take it. This one was kind of fun because one of the pictures, not this one, but there's another one coming from the library. And so it's nice to have the students take pictures and be able to share it with all of us. So we're proud to move our district mission forward. And this is our journey for this year, is that we started with our IL meeting, our instructional leaders, in August. And at that time, we talked about their role as instructional leaders and how they are helping us move forward on our mission. And we did that by talking about the goals, the 3 goals, narrowing it down, and then how can they help us with our staff to move it forward. So we looked at some data, and then during the staff in service, they led that PD with our staff, where they brought together, looked at the data, and found some gaps that matched what our goals were as our team developed them. We also have our other leaders, Jason Olson and DeShane, our ELD teachers. Every staff meeting, we started this last year. Every staff meeting, they do either a nano or a mini PD for our staff that they can pick up and take right to their classroom and implement it. Because it was such success within our staff itself, we are starting to add some special ed strategies. And so we're trying to focus on our 2 programs that are really needing the support that will show in our report cards that we did. But what made the difference with that is we added Lori Holmes, our SPED teacher, and Jason Olson to our instructional leaders. So we hear their voices at every IL meeting and every staff meeting. So some of the systems initiatives that we have in place is Our big one is our CTE programs of study. We have them in the areas of business, ag, manufacturing, construction, computer science, robotics, culinary, visual arts, and health sciences. One of the other things we have is our college and career activities that is run during advisories on Tuesdays. We have ELD coaching where Jason goes into the classrooms and works with the teachers. He also meets with them twice this year as a department with some suggestions and ideas to help. We have our advisory programs, which builds on the connections because the kids stay with their advisory for all 4 years. And so they learn the kids and the kids get to know their advisor and build that relationship. We also have attendance committees that meets, bi-monthly. We have college credit opportunities and we have credit recovery options. So living the vision. We definitely live the vision. Looking over the 2 goals that we talked about, we are truly enjoying our commitment with our communities. Each one of the CTE programs of study has to have an industrial partner. And so, for example, manufacturing is GK. They had a huge manufacturing day and we took 2 classrooms up for the morning to visit GK and getting some input from them. We also have business field trips that Bill Grupp does with Kelly Ione's business students. And those are just a few little things that we do. We have Willamette Career Academy, which is 7 more CTE programs that our kids have an option to join. It's a half day. It's 1 to 2 year commitment. We have like Schmeketa, the College Credit Now program. And we just opened up a new program at Brooks campus for EMT and it's for our seniors. And we have 2 students attending that right now and they are absolutely loving it. Willamette Promise, which is with Western and OIT. We have the National Arts Honor Society, which you heard tonight doing the banners for Hubbard. And they're helping the Hubbard Donald Police branding, some badges, some things there. I didn't realize all the stuff they were doing at the intermediate, which I think is pretty great. We have Big Brother, Big Sister, and one thing that we just finalized today was Key Club and National Honor Society is helping out with the vision screening in all 4 buildings. So our community are really engaged with what our students are doing. So do they open this up and I read it or they already see it?
I don't think they've actually seen the theory of action that's hyperlinked there.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Let's see.
Actually, I'm looking at it on Crystal's here. So.
So different from the years before, we looked at the first 2 goals and reduced a lot of the action plans. So it's not like a check we did this, check we did that, check we did this. It's more of an ongoing process that we are working through it. And so we just looked at the first 2 goals. Go ahead, next one. So we reduced our goals and action plans from our strategic plan, which gives us the permission to go deep. So goal 1 is implement rigorous and align pre-K curriculum standards, instruction and materials that are culturally responsive. And goal 2, which is empower each student to develop skills across the curriculum in ways that build their confidence and challenge themselves. So these are what we're gonna be implementing this year. A lot is carrying over from what we did last year and the year before, but going deeper. So we use the PLUS and the ELD strategies, which is the PD that we do in our staff meetings. It's also the coaching that Jason goes around and works with each group independently. We brought in the accommodation modifications, which is our SPED. We're doing a lot more modifications in the gen ed classes. And so it's a little bit new for some of our teachers, and so we really need to hold their hand and get them through the right process. With teacher development group, that is the habits of mind and actions that we are continuing with our math department. Last year, we introduced a lesson from that group that our staff really enjoyed and saw how it connected to their classroom outside of just math. And so we're gonna start integrating more of those practices for their classrooms. And it all starts with the strategies for all kids to learn. We will continue our culturally responsive teaching and how the brain works. For example, warm demanders, which goes with the T cells, which is the relationship that are so important for our student and staff. And it always works. This always works in advisory, but we are seeing it more and more happening in all of the classrooms. So it's not just an isolated lesson. It's just what our teachers do best for our kids. And then all of this work wouldn't be successful if our students are not in class. So attendance is a key factor. And you heard all about that last week. And this is an example of some of the stuff that is going on, building confidence, playing the national anthem at the football game. The mini PD with Jason and Ann down in the far corner. Our staff meetings, and then the TDG training and the work that we were doing there. And then on the last one, some of the classes that are demonstrating our goals, strategies, and action steps that support our strategic plan, which then moves our district mission forward. So we have the culinary class, providing treats for the middle school last year, the art class, mock interviews, which builds confidence when they go out to the real world, construction, weight training, and leadership class. And that's the high school.
All right. Robert, we'll start with you. Any questions for Deanna pertaining to this presentation?
No, I'm learning all that.
Okay.
So.
Sorry.
I got them all written down so I can learn.
Glenn?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Thank you, though.
Kelsey? Thank you. Earl?
It's a little bit like navigating a corn maze, but I'll ask two. One is how many students are assigned to each advisor that they follow?
Between 18 and 22.
It's sizable number.
Mhm.
The other thing was, apart from this, but your connection with Shemeketa and others, there's a bond measure up. Will that affect us as to what's available and?
No, because when we work with Shemeketa, our biggest partnership is called Willamette Consortium, and it does all our programs of study and our College Credit Now courses. The only way it will affect it is the teachers that are not qualified to teach for Shemeketa, and that's why we are going with Willamette Promise. It's two different programs.
So whether that passes or not won't affect what's available to our students. Thank you.
Jenny? No questions. Great job taking photos.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything?
No.
Good.
You're up.
I could ask questions, but I would have heard about it.
No.
Right.
All right, so thank you for having us here tonight. First, I need to give some acknowledgements. First of all, for the support of the district office that we've had the past year and a half since I've been here plus. It's been really wonderful. I want to give a quick shout out to Deanne. As far as a secondary principal partner, she has been open and kind and gracious and helped me quite a bit over the past year plus, and I'm just super grateful for her. Also, someone who should be here tonight, Lindsay Android Coberstein, my vice principal. She is coaching volleyball in Cascade this evening. So we had to split forces to cover all the bases. So anyway, so there we go. So first of all, move to the next slide. This is our staff photo from the beginning of the school year. One of the things that, and I'd said it before, that we have been really, really lucky with our staff. Every one of our staff members came back this year. In my 30 years in education, I haven't been part of a staff that was the case. And so I feel pretty blessed all the way through. We did send one staff member to the high school to be their new community outreach advocate, but we considered that not losing someone, but gaining a collaborative partner over there. But we have 25 classroom teachers, just a snapshot of middle school, 8 instructional assistants, 1 instructional coach, 2 secretaries, 1 community outreach advocate, a media assistant, and our custodians and our food services, and everybody kind of together working hard to support our 11 to 14-year-olds. This year, we're pretty excited. We had about a steady city headcount of about 386 over the summer. When we built the master schedule, which is like classes and setting up for the year, we built it to be about for 400 kids because we imagined we'd be getting some kids in. And currently with the 4 students we added last week, we're up to 416. So we're happily creating community and happily have some new kids come with us, and that part has been pretty exciting. And so that piece about what we're doing to help support our kids. Next slide, the district mission about learning together to cultivate lifelong learning. Really 11 to 14-year-olds, they're trying stuff on for size, they're trying to figure themselves out, and giving them as much opportunity to see how it is that we learn over our lifetime. So these are some of the things that are happening where we engage families in our community series evenings, our Spanish-speaking family nights. The 6-year planning profile for students, 6 years starts in 7th grade. It's the 6 years before they graduate from high school. And so there's some neat career planning and college planning that we can be doing, future planning. And then even celebrating reading, because reading this year, there was one point about 3 weeks into the school year when every kid in the school had got a reading book, a fun reading book to read in their ELA classes. They checked them out in the library, they were having, and so even that idea, last year we prayed with the primary school for reading buddies. One of the coolest pieces about this district is the fact that we can do a lot of pairing, and it's as easy as walking across the street, and it's magical. It's really, really wonderful. So we're looking forward to more of that. We also, as part of this, part of the vision of the district, as part of that strategic plan, is making sure that communities that we are engaged at, making sure that every student has access to their chosen path. And what that looks like I said, for 11 to 14-year-old is trying on a lot of things. So we have sports and activities. We had a student that had gone out for soccer, didn't even know he'd gone out for soccer. And then 2 weeks in, we're like, are you gonna go to soccer? Because we called him in for a grade check, and he's like, I'm out for soccer. And we're like, yeah, your mom signed you up. So we have different pieces. We love pairing with classes. Our leadership classes have been pairing with kinder last year, and they would go across and do some wonderful pairing. We've been strengthening our multilingual or ELL programs so that we can make sure that they have, everyone has access. And then what Deanne was talking about CTE, which is career and technical education, it is one of the coolest things about our high school. I did that for you. Our high school is that we have a robust program that is bigger than schools much larger than our high school. And so that idea of having kids kind of look and have the idea of what they might want to do, when she talks about Willamette Promise and the different pieces of that, we need to make sure that kids are ready to be able to go into that program. And so there's things that they are aware of what it takes to kind of get to those spots. Also, along with that, next slide. Sports, you might think it's just sports, but it's also learning to be a team. It's also, I didn't know before I got here that at middle school sports, that just like high school sports, you have to be eligible. That means your grades have to be in order. You cannot have an F. There's a whole process, and kids are like, my grades matter? Literally, I hear that constantly, and you know what? It's great that they learn it now, because otherwise sometimes they would just go to high school and have a harder entrance into that lesson instead of working through it during their middle school years. That picture on the right is part of our homecoming, not homecoming, our spirit week that we had last week. It ended with a dance on Thursday, which was wonderful. Over 250 kids showed up. It just was so great. But our leadership classes plan the activities and plan the dress up days. This was Pink Out. It was Monday. I didn't get to go. I had the stomach flu, but look at that picture. It's so great. So they are, that idea of planning and hosting events is like an important piece, and the fun of it. So, strategic goals and focus areas. Our theme this year is dream big, work hard. Most of all of us are working really, really hard. We need to remember to keep dreaming. During our parent conferences that are coming up next week, the first thing on the checklist that teachers and kids and parents are gonna talk about, the question for parents would be, what are your hopes and dreams for your student? We have students preparing reflections for that student-led conference. Right now, we're really super excited because we're up to 244 students and families have scheduled their conference for next week. Also, we have 33 Spanish speaking conferences already scheduled with interpreters, so we're pretty excited. We definitely want to make sure we're over the next 9 days, really reaching out and helping families know to come in, but it's this moment where we get time with kids. And we have an organized tutor homeroom. So our first focus of the year is to improve student attendance. You heard it last at the work session. It is a national problem, but it is personal to us. We are working on trying to have some interventions. We are working on fostering positive interactions with home, and then also engaging families with the process. And so we're hoping that we can take our to increase our regular attender rate by at least 10%. To do that, next slide, we are having bi-weekly attendance team like at the different other sites, but we're looking at data, trying to support students. We're trying, all of a sudden I realize it's all one, it's 1, 2, 3 on there. It's 1, 2, and 3, but maybe they're all number 1. Creating stronger communication link between school and home. I just got a compliment from a parent last night. I sent out a parent square. I'm trying to do it Sunday, 7 o'clock, so they know what's going on for the week. And third one down, I talked about this, not this presentation, but what we're focusing on. At 10 o'clock, a parent had emailed me and said, thank you for talking about, and you're gonna know focus 2 when you see it. They were like, thank you. And I'm like, you know what, communication, I know you can overdo it, but can you? I mean, at least making sure parents know what's going on, and so that part's pretty exciting. And then also family outreach. It truly at middle school, 11 to 14, these kids might be sleeping through their alarm, the parents might have left for work, but it's still a big family thing too. Different than at the high school level sometimes because they're driving, et cetera. And so we want to include our families in this. The last thing is that for focus 1 is that we are trying to have, we have a system-wide goal about student belonging. Last year, one of our teacher annual goals suggested for us school-wide, we worked on one together, was a belonging rating scale that happened at the beginning and the end of the year so that we could see if we were having any impact. Students would fill it out. And so we decided to re-up and do it again this year and keep working on it as a staff. And so that part, we're kind of excited to see the data from that. And really knowing that kids want to be where they belong, and that's an important piece. And so we recognize that. So focus 2. If you've met an 11, next slide, if you've met an 11 to 14-year-old lately, classroom and behavior management outcomes might be a big thing. And so we are working to work with our teachers to have consistent behavioral expectations, and then to really help students know what it is like to be in a learning community, how they are supposed to act in the hallway, how they are supposed to act in the bathroom, all the different pieces. It matters. And then also in the classroom, how you come here prepared, all the different pieces. So focus 1 is to get the students to school, and focus 2 is to make every minute count. So some of the current things that we're trying are, we're working on teacher collaboration on strategies. We are looking for consistent implementation of stuff school-wide. If it is school-wide, kids know what to expect. we can't expect different behavior if we haven't taught them and we haven't set that expectation, so that part is really important, especially with this age group. And then we want them to have ownership over their behavior, and we're gonna also do that by monitoring data. We are kind of excited because this time last year, we are down 20% in referrals from this time last year, which to me feels great, and way down on major incidents. So that part, we're just grateful. Staff, kids, families, they're kind of, everybody's kind of coming together. So one of the other pieces of it is, like I said, to make this community, and the other things come through, the relationships we want to have for the attendance, et cetera. So one more slide up there. There you go. So we're just still trying to communicate that culture of belonging. The last one is we want to improve student achievement outcomes. It's not just all about test scores. Students are whole people, but we want to be able to make sure that we are having excellent curriculum, great strategies, and being able to support kids to be successful. To do that, and that's the robotics competition where our middle school team, I think got entered as a high school team, and they placed.
Yeah, they did.
Very cool. So next one, we are looking at data to identify where we need to help support our students. We're strengthening instructional practices across our school. And then we also are really targeting and supporting our multilingual learners. This year, we are embedding some of our EL instruction within social studies. Every social studies class is taught by a teacher that also has a ESOL endorsement, which is English second, so English second language endorsement, but now I've forgotten a part of that, but sorry, look, I don't know that. But they're endorsed, what? Other languages, thank you. So, and then we're also increasing family involvement and helping families know what they can do to help support their students. That's the community events, the community series that we have, which, we, instead of calling them parenting series, we just decided to call them community series so that anybody involved with kids would feel welcome. But we know that parenting is a lonely task right now, and it's really good to be able to come together. The same reason for our Spanish speaking family nights. And then we also have monthly, we have building led PD that happens during that early release. 1 hour a month, and then we also have staff meeting 2 times a month, and the second time we talk all about best practices and people share what they know. The next slide, we have some school-wide stuff, school-wide initiatives that we have Avid school-wide, and we're working on student organization and the focused note-taking and critical reading strategies. We also have some academic-based student activities. Scholar Center, which used to be called Wolfpack Den, it's our after-school homework. Scholar Center, rebrand. And then we have our Mesa Robotics. And then just last year, I think we became activated as a chapter of the Junior Honor National Honor Society. And this picture is our first induction ceremony. And we did have Chef Eric, who brought over cookies cooked by the high school kids, which was amazing. And it's this Thursday night at 6:30. So consider yourself invited if you'd like to see and taste. They make a wicked monster cookie that is so good. In fact, I'm just waiting for that. So, but that's 6:30 on Thursday. And the last, we have a few slides here. So this is at a track meet. Thank you, Deanne, for loaning us the track. We love it. And then the next slide is classes happening in the different places. And I think in the far right one, that's the art teacher when we went and visited the high school. There's a music class. This is a reading buddy class. In the next one, we went for the second time with our outdoor school kids to Camp Gray, which is an OMSI camp at the beach out of Newport. 3 days. It was 3 days each session with the overlap day on Wednesday, so the buses passed each other on the road to and from. And so, but the kids loved it. Many of them had never been away from home before. And so that was when they were dissecting things in the top right. And again, in the bottom one is one of our kinder matches at the thing. And then last is, I think, a little bit of track, a little bit of robotics, a college visit. I believe it's Willamette, but it could actually be OSU. but it was one of our avid classes went there. And the very last slide are just some different pieces. We built a garden out there. One of our classes built a garden. You could see it from Grimm Road. It's much more advanced than that. And then just enjoying that was actually the first day, 6th grade in the middle. And then here we are, the kids are reading. And my goal in middle school is to note that this is not a throwaway time. It's a time when we are helping kids find their way, build academic success and build confidence. And so that part is really important. And I'm super grateful for our intermediate, primary and intermediate friends that are sending us kids that are well prepared. And then for our partners over at the high school so that the kids can know where they're going. And we're super grateful for the support of our community. We could not do it without it. And so there we go. That's our year. So we're gonna get the kids here. We're gonna really work on our behavior management and then hope, not just hope for the best, but really give them the tools to succeed. So there you go. That's our school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just go around really quick.
Yeah.
Robert, any questions
No,
pertaining
you
to this
did well
topic?
presenting that, and thank you for helping me there.
Thanks. Glenn?
On your junior honor society, is that in the library or is that?
It's in the Commons at
in the
6:30.
common?
Kelsey? Thank you. Merle?
What is required to get an ESL credential?
Well, the credential, I believe, there's a program right now that was sponsored through the U of O, and I think that it's at least 25 credit hours. So it would take, if you did about 1 or 2 classes at a time, it'd take a year or so to
It
do.
doesn't mean you're a foreign language speaker necessarily.
No, it doesn't. I believe that it helps, and I don't have that credential, but I believe that it helps you in teaching language classes when kids come in and they're learning. And right now, we have 3 or 4 that are in that program. But we have a good amount of teachers with their endorsement, which is it's a huge asset. It really is, because it allows us to do this social studies.
And if I heard right, each social studies teacher has that credential.
And they're working together and they're working to also help other teachers understand how best to support our language learners.
Sounds good.
Jenny? Just a quick little comment. I've heard great feedback about the way that the middle school is communicating with Parent Square, so keep up the communications. I don't think you can do too much, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I received that feedback from several people. So, thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
You're up, Dan, you ready?
I'm ready. Do I stay here or do you want me to go? Okay, good.
Right.
All
You
right.
guys good with that?
I'm good with that. All right. So, first I wanna thank Deanne and Stacy for a great job of, you can see the passion that they have for serving kids, serving their staff. And, just appreciate their immediate friendship and coming here, so I appreciate you both very, very much. So, I think I was wearing the same shirt when I interviewed my last interview, so I didn't do that on purpose, but here we go. So, if you remember, I gave a 100-day plan and it had 4 components to it. And so, this is just an overall, going back to that document I gave you at that final interview, and a little bit of an assessment of how I've done. And so on this one was implementation of the strategic plan, and I gave myself a B on this. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the work that we've done, and that quote there came directly from what I turned into you. And I think that what you saw in the presentations is, really trying to simplify our theories of action. I think managing schools, leading schools is really complex. And so trying to keep a very narrow focus of what you're trying to manage makes the work a lot easier. And so trying to give principals the permission to simplify, and I think you saw that in both their reports tonight. So in that aspect, I'm really proud of the work that they've done. There also, if you go into their theories of action, we really talk about what are the adult actions that will lead to improved student achievement. So they're all embracing that work of, you know, don't talk at with a lot of educational jargon way up here above people's heads, where it's not only having to learn acronyms, but you've also got to get a dictionary out. It's really talking about what are the adults going to do that are going to lead to higher student achievement. So there were some things in the 100-day plan that I didn't quite connect, but I really do think we're doing the right work. That's why I gave myself a B. And we're really looking forward to using Youth Truth as a foundational element to build a new strategic plan. So really looking forward to getting that feedback and using that information. The board policy work, I'm really proud of the work that we have done as a board superintendent team with the input of my teammates on policies here. And so we have by October 14th, a system for furnishing the board with background information in preparation for final policy adoption, that we would have a system in place. And I feel like we have a pretty good system in place. And so we're now up to date, or at least as a group collectively decide to table some things if we weren't prepared to adopt. So I think that was, you know, overwhelming success, and really want to thank Diane for her efforts in this, because she keeps it all organized and keeps me going. And we'll have a board meeting, and then I'll come to her the next morning and go, okay, we got work to do. And so we even have an appointment on our calendar for Wednesday for the upcoming policy adoption. So everything that OSBA sent us in April, you've got more work coming. So you're gonna have an email full of stuff next week coming at you.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
Rick's stuff he just said, actually working with him last week and a little bit before that, getting all those policies ready for the website. And he said, this has been the best process for him, so.
good deal,
He liked it,
good.
made his job easier.
Good deal. There will, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, there will be the process will be mostly the same moving forward, in that we will give you all the policies with our recommendations. We will use a similar form for you to give us the feedback, but we will not be linking that spreadsheet back to you until the board meeting before we adopt. I am concerned that there could be some inadvertent deliberation shared on that document. I want to be really cautious about that. So we'll be prepared at the work session to respond to questions, and you can certainly ask us questions as we prepare for those, but I just we may not be so forward facing with your feedback, because I just don't want to unintentionally violate any public meeting laws there, so just.
But we will have the same type of form during the board meeting.
Correct, yeah.
It'll just. be
After
the
that
one-
first iteration, I think we'll be on the free and clear for that, but yes, so. All right, budgeting enrollment, so when I'm done here, you'll hear our enrollment update. Overall, I think we've gotten a lot accomplished that was referenced in that particular section. Again, successful agreement with UNME was a huge part for the budgeting. In addition to just reaching that agreement with them, you're gonna get the enrollment report, the audit report. There was just a few things in there that weren't fully dialed in, so that's why I gave myself a B. And communications, climate and culture. I gave myself a C because I just didn't really feel like I talked to enough people intentionally, like sitting down and talking with enough people. So that's why I felt like I should have gotten more conversations. So that's the reason why. So I gave because somebody asked me, why'd you give yourself a C? So I just didn't feel like I had enough intentional conversation.
And I'm just gonna go on the record, as I warned him, to object to a C. Because in my experience, your communication has been amazing, like much more robust than we expected. So I definitely give you an A-, just with the fact that you need to for your own satisfaction, meet with whoever else you wanna meet with. But he really has done it in a superb job with communication. I mean, our board emails, the reminders, hopefully you've experienced it too. The communication is very forthright and I love it.
Thank you.
So I will
Yeah.
disagree.
So here's some themes from what I've heard in the conversations that I've had. So themes of positivity, you know, people love this place. And that just comes out loud and clear, that people love this school district. And you saw it, I mean, just even the kids, you know, Peter and is it Caden? You know, you can't fake their enthusiasm of what they do and things. And so kids clearly have a great experience here, so that's very evident. You know, the district is the hub that connects, you know, these communities and everything, so that's something very much valuable that we need to continue to protect and promote. And there was a lot of comments about this being the perfect size. There's enough to provide opportunities, but there's really kids are known when they come to North Marion. And so I think that those were themes of positivity, areas of growth. I think that there's our standards, our expectations, and our academic growth. And I just kind of summarize it. How are we measuring success? I think that's a big question to wrestle with when it talks about when we talk about how our kids are meeting standards, their expectations, whether that's academic or behavioral, and then how do we measure growth? And so I think that's a question that's out there that we need to work on. K-12 alignment and connectedness, that was something that was even evident in the feedback you got when you were searching for a superintendent, is that even though we're on the same property, there still needs to be better K-12 alignment as kids move through. And now you're hearing definitely some areas that's already some areas of improvement, but that's something that how kids move through K-12, there shouldn't be any disconnects between that second and third grade, fifth and sixth grade, and on into high school. So there's some work to be done there. And I think, increasing in parent involvement. I heard that from a lot of staff, heard that from a lot of places, that we do need to get our parents more involved. Our parents love it here. Our parents love sending their kids here, but are we getting our parents into our schools? Are parents feeling like they have a role to play in their kids' school? And so I think that increasing in parent involvement is something I heard. So, and then my last slide is my 100-day reflection. And so I'm giving the North Marion School District an A+ for my experiences. I actually presented this slide to staff at the summit on Friday. I gave this particular slide. So I just want to thank you all and anybody who's watching at home for the warm welcome. I feel I've been very warmly received and welcomed in this district. My observations that our people are working very hard, that our staff really do love and care for our students. I appreciate the candid and comfortable conversations. People are just really warm and open and not afraid to share their thoughts and feelings. It's a very comfortable kind of conversation. Again, successful contract negotiations is always a good thing, and it was a very positive experience. I love my teammates. Great place, great office to come to. And I just feel like overall North Marion is a special place that is ripe for success. The things that are areas of growth are very technical. They're things that are easier to fix than other things. And so I feel like we're on the right path and a place that is can be very successful. There you have it.
Robert, any questions on this?
No, man, I don't have any questions. This guy's been amazing so far.
Glenn?
No, not questions, but comments, just I think we made the right choice, so I really do. I'm And I'm glad you're feeling welcomed here and I'm glad some of the other successes you're having, especially with our staff.
I'd second the right choice. We love having you here. It's been good.
Merle?
No questions, just a refresher. We'll receive policy updates format 2 weeks before a work session.
Probably 1 week
One.
before, yeah. But you will have, but that's before the first reading for the work session. So if you need more time, the adoption
Then we have
piece,
2 weeks before.
yeah,
final.
yeah. So I think it'll be adequate time. You may feel a little rushed to get all your questions submitted, but.
There's not that.
I don't always start on time.
Well, this process will be much more traditional
Yes.
for the policy work that we've done
Mhm.
versus, you know, the update of all of that archive policy is unto itself a huge project, and it's a special project that we don't do with much regularity,
So
so.
there won't be
So, yeah,
so many.
Diane would parrot that, but it's,
Yeah,
this should be much different
more
looking
manageable.
probably, and honestly more engaging. I mean, normally we have more questions and more, because these are updates a lot of times to stuff that we maybe haven't had, so.
Not so many of them.
Yeah, not the volume.
No. Jenny?
So as I went through, you came out with a GPA of 3.2.
I think that might have been my high school GPA. There you go.
But I would agree with Crystal, I don't think you're a C, on your communication. Anyway, I think we made the right choice. I know we made the right choice. That's not a thought. I appreciate your communication. I appreciate your follow through and your transparency. I'm really excited about the way that data is gonna be collected and actually used. So I'm looking forward to that. I feel like we're on the upgrade.
You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that you bring a friendliness, even with the staff and all the interactions that I've witnessed, even in the community. And so, I look forward to seeing where you're gonna move all our markers. All right, let's move on.
It's a maze.
I made it without falling. Hello. I don't know if you guys have been able to review some of these spreadsheets that I put in the packet. The first one is similar to what you've seen and we've shared it with you one other time, but instead of just stopping with the current year as far as what our enrollment is, we've added a few years, moving the grades down so you can see if this projection continues, if the enrollment continues the way it is, how we're going to lose enrollment. So things to be ready for as far as staffing and everything that goes along with it. So no need for a new bond for new buildings at this moment. Then there's another one, Des, if you just go across the top there, I think you'll find the one with the graph on it. Yeah. This is the report that you guys see when you're in your budget book every year. And it just gives you a good idea since 2014-15 of our staffing, our totals, and then our enrollment. And it sort of gives you a nice graph of what that looks like. We are continuing to go down. Our largest number was in 15-16 with 1,992 as our official enrollment on October 1, and this year on October 1, we were at 1,610. So it's a concern that we are looking to address this year. The third spreadsheet has some enrollment history versus our enrollment versus our administrators and our enrollment versus our licensed and classified, and then enrollment looking at all staff and the ratio of students to staff and how that has continued to go up since 2015-16 for whatever reason.
but it just shows you, way back. And some would say back in 2015-16 we were understaffed, but we have a 9.3 ratio of staff to students, and now we're at 6.8 or 9. So that has changed dramatically. So just information I want you to be aware of as we move forward and move on, and we could be coming into some tough years if our enrollment continues to go down like this. So, I'll be here to help you budget for next year, but I won't be here for after. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Robert, questions?
No, I don't think so.
Couple of them. On the projected numbers for 25 through 29, it's looking like pretty static numbers at the primary. I just, not that I'm doubting, you having the best data that you possibly could to make an estimation like that, but what's the underlying data source to arrive at those numbers? Is it just a trend, is it literally just a trend of what we've been doing?
Mostly a trend of what we've been doing, but
Okay.
partially I ran into a study of birth rates, and nobody's been having kids. So unless you add some housing in this area.
Yeah.
And housing anymore doesn't bring in very many students. It's less than 1 per household now when you add a new home. So that's not probably even going to bring in very many students. So it's something that we need to think about as things change and move on. We do wonder, I haven't seen the numbers for the COVID years. Did people make babies during COVID?
Yes,
So,
I did.
yeah.
I just made another one too.
So then I guess my second follow-up would be what would be some of your biggest leading indicators when that number may change? Because while it may do that, it also we may stop losing, you know what I mean? And I just wondered is housing permits, I know that's one factor, but obviously you're saying it's not as big a factor because
Not as
housing
big a
just doesn't
factor as it-
equate
No.
more students
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, and there just aren't as many K-12 students in Oregon. We're also still losing students to homeschooling and charter schools and those sorts of things. I was encouraged that I actually thought that our high school numbers might go down more than they did, but they did not change too much this year. Well, they did 37, but then the following year they're going back up. So, that might be something. And I do think that as our students become more involved with our CTE, now that that building's really up and going and all of that, we may draw more than what we have had. Just because those are some opportunities for kids who aren't big on English, but they love to work with their hands, and that's a place for them to go and do those sorts of things. Our concern is how are we gonna staff our district with these sorts of numbers?
Yeah.
And how's that gonna look? And what is the funding from the state gonna be? Are they gonna hit the 11.3 billion for the biennium? We don't know. It's an election year, that always has big implications for everything we're doing.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with questions.
No,
I just.
I knew you would.
Kelsey? I'm good. Merle?
Always, when we talk numbers, I think, how does this affect our budget? And you've spoken to that, I guess, in some measure, but what do you see the effect being
Oh, I
on
see
staffing
us.
or other expenses? It has to make some difference.
Oh, it definitely does. I don't see that we will be funded with enough money from the state to continue with the number of staff that we do have. I do believe we will be lowering our numbers in the staffing area. What that looks like, I don't know yet, and it'll be interesting. We supposedly by around the 1st of December, we'll have some information about what funding could look like if we do get the 11.3 billion, if that's the number they want to put out. We have a good well, OASBO, partners with what used to be Forecast 5, and they'll put out a calculator for us to use. So we could look at these decreased enrollment numbers, put our numbers in and see what kind of funding we might get for next year, which then in turn will help us. And now that we have settled with licensed and we have those numbers, that's been approved tonight, we can put in the actual COLA for this year and then the actual COLA for next year when I'm running those numbers to see where that puts us and where we'll land. And that's not our only expense, but it is our biggest expense. Our staff is about 80 to 85% of our budget.
So again, it's just a matter, month to month, you just have to
Yeah,
watch what happens and go from
Yes,
there.
and there's so many other, it's not just our general fund that we're looking at anymore. We get a lot of money that funds a lot of people through our SIA and through our high school success grants. So those numbers fluctuate also, and we have to see where those are at. It appears that our number for SIA is down by maybe even more than the 80,000 that it might be down this year. So it's there's a lot of pieces to put together. I know Dan would love it if I had a number for you guys tonight. I do not. And I'm not gonna give you a number until I've turned every stone and made sure it's as accurate as I can give you with the information I know at that time. It's not fair to our staff that are listening, that we may be thinking about cuts, or to any of you. If I say, I believe, I don't have that, I don't have enough information to give you that I believe yet. So I'll give it to you as soon as I can.
Thank you, appreciate your honesty.
It doesn't help not to be.
So the calculator will allow us to see how many staff we can afford, basically, and that will give us our number.
That's one of many
Okay.
indicators. That is just one piece of the puzzle. And I'd say it's a 50-piece puzzle.
Okay,
So I need all those before I can give you some.
thank you for all your work,
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda.
Yep.
I'm good, yeah, she stole the line I was gonna say is that, you know, Linda keeps reminding me that we're only gonna give them the facts, not just how we feel about it, so.
Yeah, counting.
Wait for Linda to pull it up. No. That's Cheryl. That's Cheryl's. I don't know. Looking. Did we lose the? Lost the agenda?
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't click on anything that would have lost the agenda, so is it somewhere else along your line?
Is this you? Here.
There you go. Can you scroll down there's a slide deck. Connected. So I'm here today to talk to you about Division 22 reports, and this is our annual report that we need to give to the board and then give to the community by November 1st. Since we have some new board members, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about what exactly is Division 22 so that you know what you're you don't have to approve anything, but at least you know what we're putting out there. So Division 22 is basically all the laws that impact schools directly. And so the 22 part is the coding in the law that means it is governed by the Oregon Department of Education. And so when you're looking at an Oregon statute, the first is the chapter, then the division, then the actual rule, and then the definition or the title of the rule. And so when it has 22 in there, it impacts what we do here in our schools. And compliance with this is what allows us to get state funding and federal funding. It's things that are subject to audit, as we discovered this year with the auditors. So everything within Division 22 are really important. And every year what we do is go through to make sure we're in compliance of it. Go to the next slide, Linda. So there are actually over 50 rules that we are in compliance with when we look at Division 22. And they kind of fall under these different categories, from teaching and learning and the different elements of teaching and learning, health and safety, and then there's accountability and staffing, like human resources and staffing laws. So the why behind these reports and Division 22 is, one, it signals our commitment to making sure that we're providing a high quality educational experience for all students. And really, Division 22 is the floor. It is the minimum amount of things that we must do to make sure that we are in compliance to the law, but we can set that ceiling as high as we want and go above and beyond what's expected of us. And so when we provide these assurance reports to you as the board and then out to the community by posting it on the website, it's our way of saying to the community our commitment to making sure that we are providing that as rigorous and high of a level of educational experience for their kids as possible. There you go.
Trying to make it better.
Perfect. So first, we have our actual compliance report. So there's a couple things to be aware of with our compliance report. First is there has been some changes to the Division 22 laws. The first one is that they waived the essential skills requirement. And this has been waived since the pandemic, and midway through kind of that waiver period, the state of Oregon decided they were going to redesign the Oregon diploma. We're still waiting on the results of that. It was a very huge effort that was statewide, that there got a lot of stakeholder input. I think last year they came close to proposing something to the State Board of Education that was then rejected. So they're kind of still in the process of deciding what the Oregon diploma is going to look like. In the meantime, students are no longer officially required to show essential skills mastery in order to graduate. So what that was prior was they had to either pass the state test or complete work samples in the areas of reading, writing, and math. And so that's been kind of put to the side, but we still do a lot of measures to make sure that students are at some of those high levels before graduation. We also had to report to the Menstrual Dignity Act for students for the first time this year to say that we were in compliance with all those laws. We had that law's been in place for a while now, but we had time to make sure we were implementing it appropriately. And there were some new rules this year on how we report out our health services that we had to report on this year as well. So as of this time, we are in complete compliance. We were out of compliance last year on physical education for our elementary school grades. We were short a few minutes. And so last year we put into place some new measures to make sure we got all of the requirements met, and the state approved our plan and we put that into place and are still doing that this year. So we are not out of compliance anymore and now meet that standard. And as of this moment, we are in compliance with all standards. So all laws are being met and we are good to go. So looking ahead to this next year for 24-25, we have some new laws on the books that are going to be coming into play. The first is around making sure we have supports for our social emotional learning. They put in, you heard Deanne mention the TESOL standards, the transformational social emotional learning standards. We have already begun to put those into place, and so we are well on our way to be in compliance for this next year. There's also some change to our graduation requirements that have been made prior to that official diploma overhaul, including adding a half a credit of personal finance and a half a credit of higher education and career path skills. And then Deanne is already underway of getting all those pieces in place for students. So we will be in compliance with that for next year. And then there is some new laws that were changed around modified extended diploma and certificate of attendance. Cheryl and I have been working to make sure all of our IEPs, because this mostly impacts our students receiving special education services. And so we're making sure that our sped folks are up to date with the new laws and are helping families choose diploma options correctly because of them. And then the final piece will be that we will need to incorporate in our standards that we cover during health classes, a unit on opioid prevention in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then once in high school. So as we're looking at our health mapping this year as part of the adoption process, we'll be looking at making sure those standards are incorporated in and will be in compliance with that law. So if you can exit out, I want just one quick other thing to show y'all. And back to the, if you can go back to the memo. So what will happen now is I will post this to the website officially tomorrow that says we made a report to you all. And then I go to ODE and say, we've reported to the board, I include the minutes from our board meeting. And then I also give them access to where parents and family members can find information about Division 22. We went above and beyond this year and provided you guys and the community with a couple additional resources. The first that's going to be included on the web, and if you can go down to the bottom, Linda, click on the second below my slide deck, that second bullet. So if you really want to like geek out about state laws, you can read this document. It has every single state law that we have to report on. But what I also did this year is in that third column is I provided evidence about how we're meeting each of those state laws, including links to documents, links to board policies that are how we stay in compliance to the laws, etc. So we have no out of compliance pieces, and families can learn how we are in compliance and see evidence of how we're in compliance. We also took this document and translated it into Spanish, so all of our families have access to it. And then we took the presentation that I just gave you and translated it into Spanish as well. So that will go on the web and be accessible to all of our families. And then we'll send out a message on Parent Square, letting them know where they can find it. And then by November 15th, I send ODE, I fill out a smart form for them that shares the board meeting and our link to our website where they can find all this information. So.
All right, Robert, anything?
No, so that's good information to me, so I'm start looking at that right now.
Some reading material. Glenn?
I know you can't predict the future, but I'm assuming essential skills component of a diploma is probably gonna come back.
I don't know, to be honest. The way they've continually pushed it off, I don't know how it will come back if it does. It probably won't be in the same form. I know that there was, because districts had their own ability to demonstrate essential skills beyond the state tests, there wasn't a lot of consistency at a state level about how we were all saying kids met a certain standard, even though there was standardized rubrics, etc. So we're not sure what it will look like. In the pieces I've seen that have come out as samples, it hasn't been an intricate part of it, though I will say, and Deanne will probably echo this, there's part of us that wishes they would just make the state test required again, that kids had to pass it, because we'd get much better participation if we did. There's no teeth to that test at all right now, and so we're not sure.
Yeah, I know that issue got politicized a little bit, but it never yielded the results the state wanted it to have. And so what would often happen is if a student did not demonstrate essential skills through the test and the portfolio that they had to do, that portfolio was assessed by the same teachers that were awarding credit that required for graduation. So if you want teeth, it would be to not award the grade to give credit, because it's the same thing. And so, and to Des's point, you had, such variance across the state of what met essential skills, because those teachers that were awarding the grade were the same teachers that were determining whether the student met essential skills. So, I agree with Des, and Deanne, that putting more weight on the state test in high school would be a way to raise, standards.
Yeah. It was interesting when essential skills first came into being, I was at a conference with the head of assessment at the time. And he said, you know, if you have too high of a percentage of kids who are not meeting essential skills through the state test and they're using work samples, the state will start to audit you. We're gonna make sure that we're gonna start looking at your work samples, et cetera. So quickly, it became such a majority of kids were using work samples that the state was like, never mind, you're fine, just do it the way you want. So it was supposed to be like a minimal amount of kids that used work samples, but fairly quickly, it was the majority of kids were using work samples. So,
Great, well, I appreciate the perspectives.
Yeah.
Kelsey? Merle?
Thorough report, I thank you, and I was most grateful to read the appendage that said no action required.
Yeah, me too. It's always good to have a year where we don't have to do anything special.
Jenny?
No, the follow-up discussion answered all the questions that I was gonna ask, so thank you.
I have additional information about the requirements for
Yeah, go ahead.
career planning and personal finance.
Mhm.
We are piloting the career planning right now with our juniors. And then we will pilot the personal finance when they become seniors.
Good.
So we'll have 1 year of practicing that the student can either shift anything. So by the time our kids get to the right grade, then they'll be in place.
So you're onboarding over 2 years' time, then, cool.
The career planning will be for juniors and personal finance is seniors.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks. We have Cheryl with restraint seclusion.
All right,
annual
guys, this
report.
is the longest presentation of the night. All right, scroll down the bottom and you click on it. Hopefully you guys had an opportunity to view this document. Again, longest presentation of the night. We have had 0 restraints or seclusions last school year. And so that's been the trend over the last several years. We have probably more people trained in our restraint system. And with that, people aren't using it because part of our system is what are all of the things that we can do before we ever put hands on students. And so really using all of our other strategies and really taking a hands-off approach keeps everybody the safest. So happy to share that information. Thanks.
Any questions or are we good?
I know it was a long one, guys.
I would just say, I think that lends to your leadership in this area, because I mean, you're right, it's been, I remember when we were having it, so.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your leadership on that program, so.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Thanks so much. Thank you. All right, before we adjourn, we'll just really quick, anything else, Robert?
No, I think we're good.
Good. Glenn? Kelsey? Like, go back.
When are we doing safety, exec session?
That's tentatively scheduled for the work session in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, we wanted to wait
That-
for
that's-
That's, okay. No, I understood where we're at, I just didn't know if that was on the, still on the horizon yet or not.
Unless something changes, it will be in 2 weeks in the
Yep.
work session.
as we had planned. Kelsey? Merle?
Do we know what the agenda is for the work session?
I don't have it fully complete, but as soon as I know.
Give me.
Dan's gonna know.
No.
Okay, sorry.
I promise it's coming.
I'll give you some policy stuff.
Yeah. Tell Grace to make the snacks.
It is mostly the April release of policies.
Yeah, we'll have a heavy policy and we'll probably cover
Oh, the,
some,
April,
yeah,
April
yeah.
packet
Yep.
that we've
Yeah.
had
Mm-hmm.
for a while.
And there'll probably be some board goals, so think about that too. Jenny? Great. Meeting adjourned at, well, Dan, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 19:29. Oh, 7:29. Hospital time.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Wait,
Yes.
I was like, we were on this, like this guy.